the Los Angeles area will be talking about Google. So I guess it's ready. We're ready for, oh, and the questions that were submitted, Jesus posted in the chat. So you can look there for them. So I guess we're ready for Cesar.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cesar. Like Libby said, I am from the Chicagoland area. I'm currently a teacher in the suburbs. And the platform that we usually use the most is Zoom. So I've gotten pretty well acquainted with it as best as I could. I tried to answer most of your questions. And let me try to start sharing my presentation now. Do I have access to share?
So you just click on the three little dots, and you should be able to share.
Okay.
Can you do it?
No, I'm not able to share.
I'll go back. I'll go.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. It's my first time using Microsoft. Which one is it?
It's always something.
Okay, I'll just.
Oh, you can just send it to me. Sorry, having some technical glitches. Is it not letting me?
Okay, I just sent a link to Jesus. We should be able to share it soon.
Where did you send it to?
AFSE.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason it's not allowing me. So do you want to start? And I'll try to put it on.
Okay, that's fine.
If you just want to get started.
Yeah, are you able to present it?
I'm trying to do it right now. Sorry, I'll be having some technical problems.
Okay. Let me try something else. Can you all see this?
See a big C.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
Great. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. All right. So, like, like it was said before, we won't really cover too much of the basics. Just know that there's two different ways of opening Zoom. One of them is through the app. If you have that installed, all you have to do is go to your meetings, and usually you just get this little pop-up. You can start a new meeting or join one if you have a link. If you want to join through the browser itself, on the right-hand side next to your icon, host meeting, usually you want to start with video on, and then right after you click that, you could start hosting a meeting right away. And I know I was given like about 40 minutes, but we might finish a little earlier. Zoom is pretty it's pretty easy to go through. A lot of the features are made so that people can just log in and they know almost exactly what to do. So one of the questions was, how does screen sharing work? And screen sharing is a Zoom feature that just allows you to share any app or any or even your desktop completely if you would want, if you'd like that as well. It can work if you're just the host, or you can allow access to more of the participants there. All you have to do is at the very bottom, you click share screen. If you would like to give your participants the opportunity to share something, like if you're working with students and they put some of their work on their own device, you could click this little arrow, and this little arrow opens a little pop-up and select multiple participants can share simultaneously. Even though it does say that they share simultaneously, usually it does only allow one person to share. I know that's a little confusing, but if you want to open up more of the advanced options, just select advanced sharing options right underneath that. Oh, and by the way, if there's any questions, please just stop me. I know I'm very familiar with this, so I just tend to like speed along. But once you do click on that share screen part, you do have a few options of what you'd like to share. So the first option is just your entire desktop. If you choose to share that, it's literally just going to share what you see on your screen. But let's say you have a few apps open and you really just only want to share one of those open apps. You have most of, you have other options underneath that. If you have a Google Chrome open or like another app, like maybe you want to share a calendar, maybe you have like a scholarly app like IXL or whatever. You can select that as well. Whiteboard is pretty cool. Whiteboard works just like basically a virtual whiteboard where once you open it, you have the ability to draw. You can write on it. And one of the cooler things that I see a lot of teachers use is that they can actually connect with their phone via a cable or via Bluetooth. And when they do that, they're able to share physical documents. They just place it on a table and they just point the camera of their iPhone or tablet right on the document, and it's like ready for sharing. Just do know that some of these sharing options are only available for some devices. Right here, these are the options that I have available for my Apple, for my Mac. But if I was to do this on my Google Chrome, I would only see I would only have the ability to share my desktop, my apps, and to do another device using a cable.
Can I ask you a question
Yeah,
about
sure.
this? Okay.
Mhm.
So when you say apps, you mean like opening something on Excel or opening a JPEG? Or do you mean
Yeah,
something else? Okay.
yeah. So,
Then
a-
where do we see these choices? We've clicked on, if we click on share my screen,
mhm.
then do these possibilities come up? How do we know we're sharing?
Yeah. So once you click share your screen, immediately you should be able to see a pop-up like this. And
Okay.
all you have to do is select. It's going to be highlighted blue, whatever you do select. After it is highlighted blue, if you have a keyboard, you could just press enter. You also have, and I was going to show this on the next page, but at the bottom it says share. You could do that as well. Once you have the app highlighted that you want to share, all you have to do is click is after it's highlighted, just click share again.
Okay, and so that includes like a web page if I wanted to share a particular web page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So if you want to share a particular web page, all you have to do is select the browser that it's coming from. So if you have a web page open on Google Chrome, all you have to do is select Google Chrome as one of your options.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No problem. But that does also bring up something else. If you want to share multiple applications, like more than just one application, you have two options. As soon as you're done sharing from one application, you can stop your share and then share from another application, or if you like to have applications side by side, I find the best thing to do is just share your desktop.
What about sharing? What about sharing videos, and what are the recommendations in terms of, sharing a video? Because oftentimes we go into schools and we don't have access to the school internet.
Mhm.
So, do you have a recommendation for that?
Yeah, so that's in the next part actually. Video sharing, I'm gonna say is um it doesn't work too well on Zoom as well as we'd like it to. Obviously, it's not gonna work as well as it does physically, but there are some things you can select in order to make it in order to give the best quality. So uh always at the bottom, as soon as you click share, you'd always want to select, if you are sharing a clip, select share computer sound. If you do not select share computer sound, it's not, you're going to get that video, but you're not going to get the audio. So make sure you have that selected. And if you are sharing a screen for a video clip, also select optimize screen share for video clip. That's going to give like the best rendition of the video itself. Um, and these are just other like sharing options that you have here. If instead of the entire page of YouTube, you just want to select the video portion, in the advanced section of sharing, you are able to select share just a portion of your screen. That way you don't have to share like the ads that are on the side or like the recommended videos. Um, I'd say that's probably the best thing you can do.
Okay, when you're done, how do you remove what you've shared?
At the very top, you're gonna see like a gray bar. And so once you're done sharing, all you have to do is select stop share.
Okay, thank
And
you.
it's always gonna be there. It's never gonna disappear. So you never have to look for it. It's always gonna be at the very top. If it does get in your way when it's at the very top, you can drag it around, move it towards the side, move it towards the bottom, but it's always gonna be visible.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you.
Problem. All right. And you can also select files. If you do decide to do it this way, make sure that whatever platform you are sharing with, you are already connected to. So if this is your first time opening Dropbox through Zoom, it's gonna have you it's gonna have you um, select your preferences, and that's just something that you want to get done beforehand. All right. So I would say if you want to use this feature, just make sure you're connected, presenting. And all of this, I mean, I usually share it through Google Drive, and as you guys can see, I'm sharing it through my browser, not through the files. All right. Another question I had was, what are the recommended security provisions to in order to prevent getting hacked? Um, so I would say the best thing you can do to prevent getting hacked is once you log in, go to my account. Um, Once you open my account, on the left-hand side, you are going to see settings, and you just click on settings. If you guys are taking notes, I'll give you guys some time to write this down. See some people with pen and pencil or pen and paper. Okay. Is there someone with music playing?
Oh, sorry, that's
Oh, it's okay.
me.
It
Turn
was
it
just
off.
getting a little loud.
Sorry.
All right. Um, and if you all are interested, I can also share this presentation, um, and just send it out to you guys, just in case you guys need to look back at anything that you might have missed. I know I usually like to screenshot, but sometimes if the presentation's too long, I just ask for the link where I can view it. So these are some of the recommended settings. The waiting room, you always want to turn that on. The waiting room, when you enable it, it's like a buffer between who can enter your room and who cannot. So you're gonna see if you enable your waiting room. For example, it's gonna say like John Smith wants to enter your waiting room, and you can say, wait, like I don't know any John Smith. There's no John Smith that's scheduled to join my waiting room, and you can deny access to that person from joining your actual meeting. The waiting room is always going to be your best friend for preventing hackers or like Zoom bombers, as they're called. And it could also just give you a chance to, if you're taking roster, write down whoever's joining and at what time. You want to disable join before host. This way you do not give anybody any power to join your room before you do. Use personal meeting ID. This is usually disabled, so you don't have to worry about that. Same thing with use personal meeting ID. That's usually disabled. If you want to go the extra mile and just be extra secure, require a password for personal meetings if attendees can join before host. You want to have that enabled, as well as generate and require passwords for participants joining by phone. This way, if you don't want anybody to join your personal meeting rooms, then they're not able to because they won't have the password. But every time you do want to create a new meeting room, just make sure that those participants that you want to join in do have that password, or if not, they're just going to be locked out, and you might not even see them in the waiting room.
So I think we have a question. Gary, we did not hear you. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question again?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
My question is, when you're making a well-planned presentation and you have the ability to use multiple screens, do you recommend using multiple screens? And how would you deploy the tools that you need for conducting the presentation versus what people are seeing on their screen?
If you're using multiple screens, like I said before, and I might not have understood the question too well, but I'm like, if you're using multiple screens, the best thing you could do is just share your desktop. That way you don't have to go between one application to another.
So I guess one of the question is like, how do, like, if you look at a PowerPoint, you have the presenter view and you have the what the others are seeing, because in the presenters, you may have like, written notes for it. Could you do that in something like Zoom?
Like share notes? Was that what you're saying?
No, like, if you go into like when you're like doing a presentation, let's say in PowerPoint, you have the forward face that what the viewers are seeing, and then on your computer you may have notes that you're writing, like you are talking to yourself. So like having multiple screens in like, like there's people that have multiple screens of one of them they're looking at what the individuals the participants are seeing, and then in the other screen you have your write up where you talking from.
Okay, so you're saying more than one device, or just more than one application open?
More than one application, or like even having the ability of having two screens.
Yeah, yeah.
Screens.
Yeah, so I mean I've done that in the past. I mean, like I said, like as a teacher, there's I pretty much have a rhythm of what I know what to do. One of the things that I do is I have two applications open on Google Chrome. On one browser, I'm gonna have a presentation, and on the other, I'm gonna have my notes written down. All you have to do is just select the screen that you want your participants to look at. And I don't know if that answered your question.
Okay, well, let me rephrase my question.
Mhm.
If I have two screens, my setup right now is got two screens.
Okay.
I put your presentation on my big monitor, and I'm in video from the smaller computer, the laptop right now.
Okay.
If I only want to show my main screen and not my, let's say, my laptop, can I do that? Or when I share screen, is it going to show both my screens to the
Oh
public?
no, yeah, you could just select whichever device you want to share from. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And you might notice here how it even says desktop one. Desktop one is like the highlighted option here. If you have more than one like physical desktop, like if you have two devices and they're both connected somehow, like to the same keyboard, you're gonna have the option of desktop one, desktop two, desktop
Okay,
three. Yeah. So
that's
just
perfect.
select the desktop that you want to share from.
Because maybe it's better to organize things that you want to share later on the second screen, and not the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why.
So it
Yeah.
looks like there's another question from Kate.
Mm-hmm.
Kate,
Well,
yeah.
I can say her question for her. She wanted to know if you could repeat how to share a video without ads.
A video without ads for sure. Um, Let me go back to the presentation. So, sharing a video, if the ad is in the video itself, you're gonna see it, and you just have to wait for it to pass. But if you see like an ad like on the sidebar or like at the very top that you don't want like your children to look at, um, you can go to advanced, and all you have to do is share a portion of the screen. Now, once you select this, it's going to give you like a box that you can minimize. You can also maximize it to make it bigger, and then just drag it around to the certain portion of the screen that you want to share. That way, you don't have to see the comment section of like maybe it's like a YouTube page or the recommended videos at the side or the ads that are always waiting in the sidebars. And just to make sure that everybody knows, like if you do decide to share a video or a video clip, always make sure that the bottom two boxes are selected: share computer sound and optimize screen share for video clip.
Can you make the video full screen?
Yes, of course. Yeah. If you do that, if you do want to make the video full screen, the best thing to do is to either share from your desktop or to share from the browser itself. So if you have YouTube pulled up on Google Chrome or on Firefox or on Internet Explorer, share from those browsers directly, and then you can open that video and then uh, maximizes so that you can share full screen, and it's going to show like your entire screen as well.
Do you know if one of the problems sometimes is that school districts didn't allow you to access like certain websites like YouTube?
Mhm.
Are schools allowing YouTube these days?
Yes, it's always a good idea to check in with the schools themselves, though. Usually they're pretty relaxed. Like if it's for educational purposes, um, YouTube, from what I know of, it's only banned if you're using the school Wi-Fi, especially for like those bigger school districts like Chicago and New York. But if you're sharing from like your own personal computer and you're not even connected to the school Wi-Fi, like you're connected to the school Wi-Fi from home, it shouldn't be a problem. But just to make sure, I would always say check in with another adult. Do we have any other questions so far?
Yeah, I had two questions. One is there a way to keep the stuff that gets posted to the chat?
On Zoom, yes, there is, and I'll make sure to cover that as well. Um, so we'll get to that part. I
Okay.
think it'll come up a little later.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Then go ahead then.
Okay. So we were talking about security. Just some other tips. only accept guests if you know that they are supposed to join your meetings. They are able to sometimes just come in and they already have a name. Like if you're doing it from a school and their device is connected to the school Wi-Fi, you're going to see John Smith wants to join your meeting. So you accept him or you don't, whether or not you know that person is supposed to be there. The waiting room is always going to be your best friend, so make sure you have it enabled. Update Zoom as much as possible in order to get the most updated security features. And it has we haven't really gotten a recent upload, but there came one like 6 months ago that had some like big security feature that that my district where I worked at wanted everybody to get. Zoom also has the feature of making someone else a co-host or a host so that they can share things and have the same privileges that you have. Never make anyone co-host unless you are absolutely sure that you want them to have those privileges. And if you ever have any doubt about anything with a participant, kick them out. That's just keep that in the back of your mind. If in doubt, kick out. And that usually just saves you from those Zoom bombers or Zoom hackers. And I will just say, I've never gotten hacked myself. The best thing you can do in order to stop those hackers is just to prevent them from getting into your room in the first place.
There's a hand raised, Livy.
Okay.
There's a question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. I can't really see raised hands or when someone wants to talk when I'm presenting. But who has the question?
I think it was she put it down, so I'm assuming.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I lowered my hand.
Okay. Okay. So anytime you want to record a Zoom session, at the very bottom, right next to share screen, all you have to do is hit record and select where you want the recording to go to. Make sure that once this does happen, you see at the very top that that the recording status is on. So it's going to have like a blinking red light. And I think one of the questions was if it is in a format that can be exported to YouTube or Facebook. Yes, it should be. If you download it to the computer, the file should download almost immediately after you're done recording. If you download it to the cloud, so if you download it to the Zoom cloud, you're going to have to open Zoom back up on a browser or on the app and then download it to your computer or to a flash drive. So either way, the format is always exportable to YouTube or Facebook.
What is the format that the video is saved in? Do you know?
I don't remember. Give me a second.
I think it's MP. Pretty sure it's MP4.
Correct. Yeah, it's MP4.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
It's gonna say, and sometimes it might even open a like a big folder in your applications that says Zoom, and you'll usually be able to find it right away after that.
Okay.
If it's not in your recents.
Okay, so it would, when it downloads to where? What place?
It depends on what you select. So
if it's on the computer.
Yeah, if you selected record to this computer or record on this computer, it's going to record directly into your Finder or your file folder or whatever the application is called. Sometimes you might just see it on your desktop as well.
So you just have to look through various folders till you find it.
Yeah, you'll usually be able to find it on your recents. It's going to be like the first MP4 that comes up.
And can you record if you're not the host, or do you have to be the host to record?
Yes, you can record if you are not the host. If you do not want that to happen, you're gonna have to go to those Zoom settings, and then disable recording if they are not the host. But from what I've experienced, you usually have the ability to record automatic, like just without messing with the settings as a default.
Other question?
Yes.
If whether it's agreed to or not, I'm not sure. But if we want to save all these workshops
Mm-hmm.
to the NOMI website as sort of resource to go back to learn from, this can be done. How would you recommend it be done? Through the cloud, which I guess requires opening the application through Zoom, or to download it directly to our website and just pull up an MP4?
If you want to share through to other people, I would say download it to the website. If you record this to the cloud, the only people who are going to have access to it is whoever owns that Zoom account.
Understood.
Okay. All right.
We have about 5 more minutes, so.
Oh yeah. I'll speed things up a bit. The rest of the questions are really just about recording the session. Just make sure that a few things that you consider are, if you're going to download it to the cloud, be aware that each time you want to see it on a different device, you're going to have to download it. If you save it to the computer, you can the download starts as soon as the recording stops, and then you can just export it directly to a flash drive. Oh, and by the way, and this is just like for anybody, before you record, just make sure that you have the approval of a teacher or of another adult. I know with younger students, that's a big problem in the districts around the city. So just make sure you keep that in mind. This has been covered before. The best way to the best way to stop a hacker is to prevent them from getting in the first place. Only share links and passwords with the people you trust to join. And if a Zoom bomber or a hacker does happen to get in, just kick them out immediately. All right.
When you record and you've saved the recording, can you edit it? Like you could edit a YouTube video before using it somewhere? Like, because you'd want to edit out kids' names and things like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you have the programs that allow you to edit it, it's just like editing any other video.
Okay, thank you.
No
Yeah,
problem.
we've this is Kate. We edited on YouTube. We downloaded the recording to YouTube. I didn't do it, or a communications guy did it, and then we were able to edit it there.
Thank you, Kate. Okay. So presenting information. If you decide to share, you're gonna see a draw tool. And I'll like I said, I'll share this in case you guys need to get back to it. It's just I know we're running out of time. So you can share apps such as PowerPoint, Google Slides, and Prezi. All of them are able to be shared. PowerPoint is a program on most devices, whereas Google Slides and Prezi, they are browser-based or they're web-based. And then you'd have to select the browser where you want to open them from. The whiteboard app was mentioned before as well. It's where you can draw and write. The chat feature, I know some of you guys had a question about that. Oh, this isn't that slide, but you can open polls in some Zoom rooms. You can also choose a Zoom background if you want to display like a certain mood or give or tell a certain story or give participants just like a little more information about who you are as a person. This is the chat slide. So you can always enable chats. all you have to do, if you have like a large group, you can ask a general question, and then they can type in the chat their response. I would say the best setting for the chat, you can click on these three little dots. Make sure that everyone can chat with everyone publicly. This also works tremendously well for students who just might have they have difficulty with speaking, or they just feel shy about speaking out loud. The chat is is great for them as a form of expression. And a lot of those tech savvy like students, they also know how to input like emojis to express mood, or to like respond to a certain question. I know I had another question about the chat, so would you like to ask that question now?
Just how to save it. If there's
How
a way
to
to
save the
it.
chat?
I think.
Yeah. So I haven't found an easy way. The easiest thing that I do is I try to maximize it as much as I can. The chat feature has like this green button on the top left, and then I just screenshot a certain portion, or the certain portion of the chat that I want to save. That's the easiest way that you can do it directly. I've also seen other people open this little sidebar, and then they just save chat here. I'm not too sure how that works. I have seen other teachers do it though.
Are there any more burning questions before we move on to Google? No?
Quick question here. Is there a way to ask Cesar if there's a question maybe we didn't get answered and think of it later?
Yeah, I can stay on later. I'll stay on. I don't know how much time we have, but after Sai presents, I'll still be here.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much, Cesar.
No problem. Thank you all.
So, Sai, are you ready for Google?
I am. Thank you all so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. So just in case you missed it, Jesus posted all the questions in the chat. You already have them, so if you just want to get started, thank you.
Am I sharing my screen right now?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Oh, great. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Sai Reddy. I'm a sophomore from Lakewood, California. So this is the questions and my answers for your Google Meet burning questions. So one of them were, what are the main differences between Google and Zoom? So there are tons of differences and similarities which can be found on a future seminar, which I hear will be next week. But for this question, the basics are Google Meet does come with Google Suite. So in my district in Lakewood, California, most classrooms are in Google Meet. So let's say you have Google Classroom, and there'll be a link to go to directly to the Google Meet without putting any codes or anything that you would see in Zoom. And it's much more convenient for students and for the people who want to join. Now for Zoom, there are more features such as what Caesar was going over, drawing on your screen, but there are more features always coming to Google Meet, so please do keep that in mind. Now Zoom is an independent software, so Google Meet comes with Google, so you're going to most likely want a Google account, but for simply joining one on a computer, you won't need one. And now both have no initial cost, but you will want to, they will make you pay if you want the extra features, which are not that necessary unless you're having 60 or 100 plus people in your meet. Now, is Google free? All features are free, but our school does have Google Suite, which gives you more options, which you will have to pay for. But for most people, including the purposes of going into classrooms and presenting for 5 to 10 minutes, it is most likely not needed. Now, these are just a few of the features that Google offers for free. Now, what security protocols are built into Google? So like Mr. Caesar said, we haven't really been hacked before, and it's not really something that is very common, but Google does offer precautions for if it does happen. So guests are going to need to be allowed in most situations. And of course, it can be changed in settings. Now, the class can only be opened and closed by the host, and the host can be transferred. Students are only allowed in after a meeting has started. Now, if you want to go in to a classroom, you won't be able to just directly go in with the code because you're going to need the code from the teacher or administrator. So what you would want to do is contact the school and contact the principal. They'll let you, they'll see what you're trying to do, and they'll give you access to all the information of their teachers. Teachers can, you can talk with them and have them allow you into their classrooms. Now, do you have to have a Gmail account to use? So for the most part, no. You do not need a Google account to participate in Meet video meetings. However, if you don't have a Google account, the meeting organizer or someone from the organization must grant you access to that meeting. So I'm a student, so I do have a specific Gmail account. So I can just press the link and it'll let me in if it's already started. But if you're starting it independently, then people are going to have to be accepted into it. So it'll give you an option to either accept them or deny them permission to enter. Now, if you are not signed into a Google or Gmail account, you cannot join using your mobile device yet. Now, what type of presentations can be given in a situation? What is the best way to post and get feedback? So this would depend on what situations would be. So what did you mean by that? Anybody?
What did you mean by what? I'm sorry.
So one of the questions was, what type of presentations can be given in a session? So
like a PowerPoint or an Excel spreadsheet, or I assume all those things, right?
So Google Meet gives you the option to either share your entire screen like I'm doing right now, or just share a specific tab like Mr. Caesar did with Zoom. So you could use PowerPoint, but because Google does offer all of the features such as Google Meet, it would probably be more convenient for you to use Google Meet. So you could use PowerPoint and you could use Google Meet. So anything on your screen is fine to use. Now, what is the best way to post and get feedback? What do you mean by that?
Not sure. That might have been one of Pat's questions.
Ms. Pat, what did you mean by what is the best way to post and get feedback? I do not think Ms. Pat is here, but the best way to post and get feedback. I'm going to assume you mean in the chat. So in the chat, there are new options such as breakout rooms, and you can give them a poll. So you can ask a question, and then in the chat, they can have several options. But there's also a feature that Google has called Google Forms. So you could kind of make like a little quiz or a survey, and they can choose the answer that best matches what how they want to answer. And all those responses would be going to the person who made that. So let's make an example. So let's say you're going to a teacher's class for 5 to 10 minutes, and you're presenting about how joining the military, when joining the military, what are some of the things that they might not tell you when you're signing up? So you can say, what have you learned from this presentation? So you could go in the chat and you could send out a poll, and they would answer, and you would get all that information. Now, I'm not quite sure how it works for Zoom, but for Google.
Wait just a second. I think we lost your presentation. It's actually showing.
It's back.
It's back.
I think so for me, yeah.
Huh.
Well, I saw it.
There we go. Thanks.
Fantastic. So for Google Meet, you can just copy the entire thing by highlighting everything and pressing Command C. Or you could also press Command A, Command. And this works on Mac, on any device. So now let me just take you to Google Meet and how it would work if you wanted to make one yourself. So just search at googlemeet.com. It'll take you to this website. Now you want to press New Meeting and press Create a Meeting Link for later. That's what I would do. Now you can copy this link and you could send it to anybody you would want to join your meeting, and they would press on the link and you would have to accept them into the meeting. That's how it would work. So I'm going to paste the link, and this is what the screen that you would see. Allow them to use those features, and hey, I'm on Google Meet now. So you can change your background with this button, mute, turn off camera, and join now. So I'm in my Google Meet right now. If anybody wants to join, they can, I'll see a notification and I just allow or deny them to enter. And that is how you use Google Meet. Are there any more questions?
How were you able to do both this Microsoft and the Google Meet just now?
So Google Meet and Google and Microsoft Teams are different. I think my voice is overlapping and it's doubling on your audio. Would you mind turning off your audio for a minute? Miss Libby? Thank you. So I'm sharing my entire screen. So I'm independently going on Google Meets on the same screen, and it wouldn't interfere with any other thing. So you could run, technically, you could run Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, all at the same time. They wouldn't interfere with each other. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, but I've dropped out of the meeting for a minute, so I might have missed what you just explained. Sorry.
Yeah, so you could run Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, and Zoom at the same time. They wouldn't interfere with each other. It might make your connection a bit slower because depending on the amount of people in each meet, but they should all work together. I think there were a few more questions. Who has access into getting into a classroom? Can a guest do that? So by classroom, I'm going to assume you mean Google Classroom. So that is difficult because Miss Pat tried to join a Google Classroom and it wouldn't let her because our school has Google Suite. So you wouldn't be able to join a Google Classroom. You would need to join via the link directly. So for that, you would need to ask the teacher. How can you get notices, bulletins, etc. to the entire school? Do you need student ID or can students give you access? How is that done? So that is something you would need to discuss with the principal of the school you're trying to get into. So student IDs are the only thing that they're really used for is for getting lunch. They're not really used for getting into meetings. As long as you're in the Google Classroom and you have a school registered email, you should be able to get in. And in your situation, you don't have one, so you would need to work something out with a teacher and ask them to let you in. Can a student control what is shown to the group, such as a PowerPoint presentation, visuals, or sound? Yes, they can, as long as they're presenting it. So students cannot mute another student or the teacher, and they cannot turn off somebody else's presentation. But if the student is given host permissions, they could. That's why, like Mr. Caesar said, you want to make sure you are sure you want that person to have those permissions. But students can present independently if given the option to. Miss Pat raised her hand. Did you have a question, Miss Pat? And Miss Libby?
Sorry, I did unmute, sorry. My question is, I noticed that when we were in a classroom that, just so that other people know what to expect, you really wouldn't see pictures of students. In fact, sometimes they don't even have the sound on, they're just doing everything in the classroom by chat.
So
what do we expect? Is that the norm or just with the clubs?
Now,
like a classroom, will it be different from going as a club?
That has less to do with technology and more to do with your audience, like Mr. Caesar was talking about, and just in talking with children, people under 18 in general. We are at home, so people are going to be tempted to turn off their cameras, and that's just their personal preference. Now, in my school, it is mandatory to turn on your camera for attendance purposes. So are going to need to, and you could make that the case saying, please keep your cameras on. And for the mic, it is mandatory to turn off your mic while if you're not speaking, because then it'll sound like a broken mic. So it's not a norm, but it's more of just a preference for the student. But you could ask them to speak instead of typing the chat, and Google Meet does allow you to turn off the chat. Gary is saying, is the flow of a video you're sharing determined by the processing speed of your computer? Sometimes people try to show videos on sharing platforms and they are choppy. Yeah, so that is a major point of just the connection. But if on Google Meet, it gives you several options. So if you present a YouTube video, Google will tell you up front saying, why don't I just show you guys? So let's go to googlemeet.com and let's new meeting. Let's create a meeting for ourselves. And let's join. Now for the chat, you can, if you want people to talk and make them more engaged, you will have an option to turn off the chat feature over here. Since I'm the only one joining, that's most likely the reason it's not letting me. Google Meet does let you turn on captions. So if somebody is maybe a bit too quiet or the audio is not working properly, you can just turn on the captions. if you want to see more people, you can change the layout and go to settings, and you can change things in there. If you want to see who's in your meeting, you can press that. You can pin somebody if they're specifically talking and you want their screen to be like how mine is right now. And the timings over here. And whiteboard, this is most likely a new feature. You can draw similar to Google to Zoom, which I referred to in the beginning. And that is about it for Google Meet. Out of curiosity, have outside organizations made presentations to classrooms via Google or Zoom? I personally have not had anybody from your organizations or similar organizations come into a classroom and talk about their topics, but
I can help answer that. So it seems like Google Zoom is like preferred. It's like the preferred method of like sharing for organizations that aren't like scholarly. Like most of my classes when I was in college and when I was working in the Chicago public schools, they preferred um, Google Classrooms and Google Meets just because of the connectedness of it all. Because it's just like Google is just a one-stop shop for everything, so it's super simple for students to use it. But Zoom is just like preferred outside of school districts.
yeah, I totally agree with that. Because like I said in the beginning, there are many products, and if you're using Google already, you don't want to go put this slide down and you want to go open up a new tab. You know, like say PowerPoint or something or Microsoft Word. You can use Docs instead of Microsoft Word, Drive instead of Dropbox, and all those external features. Google just lets you make it more convenient, and it's all packed into one email account. Are there any other questions?
You know, it seems like they could open up the classroom to all kinds of different outside speakers now that everybody's using these remote platforms. You're not confined by geography anymore. You can have people from all over the world. I just wonder how much, and I don't know how vast your experience is, but I was just curious if schools are taking advantage of that at all.
You see no speakers or no outside presenters, not organizations like ours, but I mean, you haven't seen any of that, Si?
I personally haven't experienced it, but it is for sure something that people are looking into. It is an advantage of meeting online. So some clubs, let's say it's the medical club, they're having doctors from Europe come in, or they're planning to have college representatives from Harvard come in and speak on Google Meet. So yeah, it does open up a lot of doors. But I think the main thing is first of all, to make sure that you're following, school guidelines, and it just makes it easier for you too. You would want to first go to the principal or somebody who works at the school and ask them for the Google Meet code and just join. It isn't as complicated as Zoom, if I can say so, because it's all just in one application.
I see a question from Pete Shoemaker.
Hi, do we have is there any information, is the military recruiting via these remote methods? Just quickly, like in Seattle, what we've normally done is the military comes to the schools and then we go to the schools while the military's there. Or for a similar amount of time outside like a cafeteria or something. We haven't normally been in classrooms that much. but is the military doing this on their end?
Yeah, so I get that part. So when I was in my freshman year before the COVID-19 situation, I did see several times the military veterans. They laid at a desk at the quad where people eat, and they had a table saying, "Join the military after high school. This is what happens." I didn't investigate the table, but that does happen, and I'm sure they have found a way to get into classrooms. Um, so you could do the same thing. You just need to go through the principal and ask a good
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
We would just ask the school what they're doing, essentially.
exactly.
Yes, Si, have you seen a way that they put that maybe another group, like not just the military recruiters, but other organizations have posted recruiting things, like even colleges or whatever? Is there a portion, or is there a place where students can read bulletins and posters and notices?
So our school has a weekly bulletin. So that is made by the student body. So again, you would need to go through the principal, and he would give you the connections that you would need to make that happen. But if you have any advertisements or any thing that you wanted posted on the bulletin, which is now a fully online document that is sent by your counselor through emails, you would need to contact them, and they would put that in. And every week, it would be sent to students via email.
Sorry, do you get these newsletters in your email?
These newsletters, they're less of newsletters and more of they're more of just a document which shows what's happening in the school.
More of a bulletin.
Yeah.
Notification, yeah.
Of course.
And you haven't seen any recruiters on that, have you? Military recruiters?
I haven't.
Well, some schools, like Kate was talking about, schools in Santa Barbara and the schools in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, I'm aware of, they schedule them before school hours. All recruiters, college recruiters, military recruiters, and they refer to us as peace recruiters, which is kind of weird. But so you schedule a time, and you can interact with students via Zoom or Google, whatever they use.
Yeah, this is Kate. Yeah, we had a meeting because we have a policy very similar to San Diego's policy that regulates recruiters, but we're considered a type of recruiter. So we regularly meet with each administration, and we met with them a few weeks ago, and they said we could, they'd had the Marines came. They said only 2 students came because they schedule these times outside of class. So it's totally optional because, the teachers have to maximize their teaching hours. So it was either during lunch or before or after school. They said even with the colleges, they've had a lot less attendance at these things. Like John Hopkins came to Dos Pueblos, and they had hardly any students, and they were expecting a lot more. So that's the only thing. It seems like there's less participation because, kids are sort of zoomed out. And they also are going to announce it, like you're saying, in a bulletin at the beginning of the week that we're coming.
I have a question sort of for everybody. I've noticed that our television, it's a bad word, it's not even relevant anymore, but the streaming that comes through this panel on the wall, more and more seems to have very segmented, very directed advertising. In the same way, are they able to direct, depending on your economic situation or your class grade level, a particular, pitches to you as students? And even your GPA, if your grade point average is lower, then maybe you're suspected, maybe you're not going to go to college, they would then direct promotions to you from the military for joining. That would be a concern to me. That is, this becomes more and more sophisticated. They would be able to direct the information more specifically.
So it looks like Greg may have a question.
Yes, it's just a suggestion that when people are referring to visits, if they would be specific about whether it's a remote visit you're referring to or an in-person visit, whether it's a recruiter or counter recruitment group, because sometimes I think it's not clear what you're talking about. That's all. Thanks.
And just to answer your question, Gary, there's privacy protection laws, and they have access to names, but they shouldn't have access to a student's grades. Um, at least, I don't think it's happening here in our school district that the recruiters would get also the students' grades. I think, the targeting tends to happen more at the college counselor, because they're the ones that tend to know the students' grades. Like for example, I think one thing that keeps happening here in a school district, and I'm assuming it happens in all the school districts, is that counselors tend to just give priority of who they're going to help with college and scholarships to students that may have a higher high ACT scores and grades, and they may not put too much attention to the students that have a lower school grades or ACT scores. And I would say probably sort of similar. The same thing goes to uh, uh, financial means.
Are there any more questions about Google Meet?
I have my hand up. This is Kate. So like the privacy issue, we discussed it with the schools where we're gonna, do some remote presentations. With Google Meet, because we talked to them about the chat being private, and we didn't want like military recruiters like chatting with students, privately. How that you can do that in Zoom, and I don't know. They said that they could turn that off. That they just basically turned off the chat, or it's a tricky thing because students like to ask questions in the chat. But I don't know if, as far as controlling that privacy with the chat, if you have thoughts about that or.
What do you mean by military recruiting into the meeting?
Well, if you go to a chat, and I've been to lots of different kinds of meetings where you can chat privately with people as opposed to everyone. And our concern was that, if there was a recruiter there, any kind of recruiter, college, whoever, and that they are possibly chatting privately with a student, that would be, getting students confidential information in a way, like they could have a whole exchange. So it was something we brought up, and the schools said that the schools here are actually using Zoom, and they said that they controlled the chat. And I just didn't know, as far as the settings with Google Meet, or how the school works with that, like how are your students able to privately chat with each other or with a presenter or a teacher?
I have been in many classes, but never have I been able to chat privately. It most likely is an option. It's just not allowed for students to use.
That's good. Thank you.
I think administration usually turns off private chats anyway, if it's like gonna be like a large group kind of thing. And like said before, I haven't seen any of that happen. Private chats.
Yeah, otherwise the kids would be passing notes all day long, just like in real life.
I have a question relating to this for Cy. Are schools routinely issuing email addresses to each student?
No. So when you get into the district, I got in second grade. You automatically get an email with your name, last name, and your district, and it'll give you your own specific like thing to identify you. But that's the email that you're going to be stuck with most likely for your entire middle school, elementary, and high school coding.
Okay. Then this brings up an important issue. And it relates to whether or not there's going to be ongoing direct communication between recruiters and an individual student. In case people aren't aware, the military funding bill that is about to be passed includes an amendment to the recruiter access provision of existing law. It will now require schools to release email addresses that they have for students when recruiters request it, provided the parent or student hasn't opted out. But this is going to shortcut that contact process that some people here have expressed concern about. If schools are issuing email addresses, that's part of the student record, and that will now become part of the contact information that's going to be released in the future, assuming the bill gets passed, which is 99.9% likely to happen sometime in the next week or two. So this is going to change things dramatically.
Is that being driven by the pandemic?
It's in the negotiated bill, so both the House and the Senate have agreed to it. It doesn't matter who initiated it. It's now in the final bill.
Is it, Rick, is that student emails or parents' emails?
Student emails. It's to go along with their name, address, phone number, and by the way, cell numbers were also being added in this new bill. We in the past, we know that some schools have been sharing email addresses, but it's not required, and it's probably a violation of privacy. But now it's going to be required when recruiters request the contact lists. So concern about chats during Zooms are going to be superseded by the fact that recruiters can simply go in and get that contact information, so they can have that direct engagement with an individual student outside of school, outside of parental control, everything else, unless opt-out has been chosen by the parents in this, or a student who's 18 or older.
Rick, does that provide more impetus for the school district to provide an alert to the parent of that fact on the opt-out information, that the kids' email is going to be released and they may be contacted without the knowledge of the parent?
You know, the language of the bill doesn't say anything about changing the content of notifications. I would have to go back and look at the language, the current language, and see whether it says that when parents and students are notified that the contact information will be released, that they have to be told exactly what is being released. The separate privacy law, FERPA, did require schools, when they're going to release directory information, to specify what's being released. But I don't know about this because this was legislation that was put into place independent of FERPA, and in some ways it supersedes FERPA.
And does counter recruitment equal access allow us to have the same access to that information?
In theory, well, first of all, schools aren't required to release the information to anyone except military representatives and college representatives. In theory, one could make an argument or a case that if the school is going to release any information, that same information must be available to groups with a counterpoint or an opposing view to the military. But no one's really done that, except they did in the state of Ohio. And that was many years ago. And I'm not even sure that equal access is being given there anymore to student lists.
So, guys, we only have a few more minutes, so I want to make sure we have enough time in case there's more questions related to Google or Zoom for Cy and Cesar. Okay.
Are there any more questions about Google Meet?
And I'm still here in case there's any questions about Zoom as well.
We really have some fine presentations here. Thank you both very much. So
Yeah, you
professional.
guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you all for having us.
Amazing. Woo!
I didn't want to cut you off, Rick. I just wanted to make sure we had enough time for if there are any remaining questions.
Oh, I understand fully. No problem.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Any more questions? Going, gone?
I
See you
just want to
guys.
say, yeah, it's Kate. It's not a question really. I just want to say that the news, and I did hear about the NDAA news that Rick is talking about. I'm finding that really demoralizing, to be honest. And but at the same time, I don't want everybody to like give up the fight, because it's just like, it's amazing that they're allowing this to happen, for this direct access to students,
Well,
and
maybe
not
we
seeing it's a violation.
Maybe we can preemptively, as NNOMY, somehow confront this issue publicly and by district.
One of the things that I think you all know is that